parents of Reddit, have you ever regretted what you named your child? If so, why? Before I was born, my dad wanted to name me Harley after his favorite bike, but my mom insisted that I needed a Bible name. At age 4 I chose a nickname for myself because I couldn't pronounce this Bible name. But then as a teen I questioned my younger self's choice and explored new nicknames, including Harley. When I brought this idea to my dad thinking he'd be pleased, he got red in the face and said, "I had to sell that bike to put you in school. It's nothing to me now. Just a random chunk of metal. You want to be named after a random chunk of metal? Fine, I'll call you Crankshaft, how about that?" And he did. For like 2 years. I don't know where the regret is in that story, but it's somewhere. Greater than fine, I'll call you Crankshaft, how about that? And he did. For like 2 years. Damn. Lol. That's taking drama queening seriously right there. Tangentially related. I used to tutor kids on their homes. I get contacted by a mom about tutoring her kid, Harley. The first time I went to their house, I could see a motorcycle in the open garage. I figured that's why they named their kid that and never thought anything of it again. It wasn't until after like 2 months of tutoring him that I finally meet the dad. Dude rolls in on a wheelchair, paralyzed from the waist down from a motorcycle accident like 2 years prior. He probably regrets that name. Ugh. I'm sorry XAA12. My wife and I don't like all the family politics of naming the children. Someone's going to get bent out of shape because one family member got used and not another. So, we racked our brains to agree on a name not used on either side of the family. Didn't announce the name until the birth. Neither my mother or father said anything for a year. Then, one day they casually mentioned the name of my uncle's first son that I wasn't even aware of. He had died at only 6 weeks old, 15 years before I was born. I don't know that I regret the name of my son, but it would have been crossed off the list of contenders had I known. We were going to name our daughter Milena, but then I told my OB/GYN father what our decision was for the name. I kid you not. But he said, "That is a terrible name. You will regret it. It is very close to the medical term Milena, and that means bloody tarry stools. You don't want me to link her name with poop for her whole life, do you?" Quote. So needless to say, Milena was out. I always thought Milena was such a pretty name. Thanks a ton. A shit ton. Look here you little shit. My parents couldn't agree on a name, so they agreed that my dad would get to name me if I was a boy, and my mom would name me if I was a girl. My dad, in all his greatness, settled on Wolfman Jack. Yeah, thank God I was born a girl. Thanks, monsieur. You're welcome, Wolverina Jacqueline. Wolverina Jacquelina is an awesome name. I knew an Annalise once, and when she was 8, they realized that the unique spelling of her name was a popular personal lubricant. There was a girl in my elementary school named Nida, but I suppose it's hard to come up with a good name ending in but Nida would not have been my top pick. Why not just go with Anita? I need a but. I named my daughter Karen. Thanks, Internet. Imagine calling a baby Karen. Monitor her hairstyle closely and keep her away from all managers and she'll pull through, I promise. I'm named after a song. It was also in the top 5 names for the decade in which I was born. Pretty sure they started to regret it the first time there were more than 5 kids sharing my name in my class. Beth, Caroline, Marta, Lucy, Edit, Roxanne, Shamika, Keisha, Tara, Frika Leek, Shonda, Sabrina, Crystal, Drahanda, Mary, Joe, Lisa. That's not my name. Susudio. A personal favorite. I'm the son. My father regrets the name he gave me, because it's nearly identical to his name. Only difference is the middle name, initial, which rarely shows up on paperwork. So almost any time that either of us goes to do any paperwork or sign up for something, we run into issues involving our nearly identical names. For example, We both face roughly a 20-minute delay when trying to vote because they mix up which of us is which. I receive his Best Buy receipts. He gets packages and mail meant for me and I for hi monsieur. His credit card routinely pops up on my credit report. My student loan routinely pops up on his. As a medical professional, I feel like this should be illegal. At one place I worked, we had William Roger Smith, fake name, born the 5th of May 63, or whatever, and his son, William Robert Smith, born the 5th of May 93. Slightly different middle names, birth dates exactly 30 years apart. It was a fucking nightmare. Both of their medical records are now fucked up because of the similarity of name and birth date. Don't do this to your kids. People, I'm like this with my father. Born exactly 20 years apart and have the same name. Except I have the 3 suffix. It does make messing with phone solicitors fun though. I need to speak with Charles. Which one? Charles blank. Which one? Charles blank, Sr. You monsieur. Good luck with that. He died over 40 years ago. You monsieur. What is this pertaining to? Ha. My brother-in-law has that except he's a IV and the eye is still alive. Poor bastard gets calls about his pension all the time. He has to ask if he sounds like a 103-year-old man to get them off the phone. My husband has the same name as 5 other members of his extended family. He always makes sure to put in his middle name on his paperwork. My dad regrets my name. He wishes he had named me after his father. When my parents had me, both his younger brothers were engaged. So he figured they'll probably have sons and name him after their dad. Well, one had 2 sons and the other had 1. None of them named after my grandfather. My dad regrets picking the name he preferred and has said, if I could go back in time, I would name you Thomas. We have a name on our list we were guilted out of because my sale might use it. She also says she doesn't even know if she wants kids. We are actively having them. Emo names can be talked about but are also FCFS. If you're too close together, don't steal a name. But also don't not use a name you love because someone else might use it. For this reason I never told my kids names beforehand. Everyone, barring my hubs and self, found out the name at birth. All this much to the chagrin of our mothers. And especially after my mill suggested Verna Louise if our second was a girl. Over my cold dead body would a daughter of mine been named Verna Lou. My dad wanted to name me Simba, like the Lion King, so I think he'd probably regret that if he did it. I used to have a coworker named Simba who was like my favorite person. So thanks for the lovely reminder. I was going to be named Osama. Thank God I was born in 2002. My brother, 97, was not as lucky as you to avoid it. Well, I don't think they regret it or care, but my name is Latina and I'm black. I always get asked about it and have to explain that it was completely arbitrary and I speak no Spanish. That remind me that my grandfather have an Italian name only because my great-grandfather thought Italian name sounded nice. Well, I had my first son and named him Walter Jr., but then I had my second son and he better exemplified the Walter name, so I named him Walter Jr. and switched the first son to Andrew, which I found in a baby name book. My dad worked with a guy that this actually happened to. They named their first son John or whatever after the dad had like 3 more kids and then decided they wanted the youngest to be John. They changed the oldest son's name to whatever they had named the youngest son originally and just went on with their lives. The oldest son was already 8 or 9 years old by the time they changed his name, so he ended up a little fucked up later on and had a bit of an identity crisis. My dad worked with the youngest son, second John, and even he said he can't figure out why his parents would change their names. The parents' only explanation was that the youngest son just seemed more like a John than the oldest. What a weirdly dehumanizing way of organizing your children. The kids were born in the 60s. My bae the 70s. Back when morals and ethics especially towards children, or more like vague suggestions. I'm sure the parents never saw anything wrong with what they did, and that's the saddest part to me. I always let my kids name themselves when they turn 5. Some people complain, but I can tell you that my son Superman is doing fantastically. There's that skier who's named Peekaboo Street because her parents let her name herself. No joke, a guy in my high school was named Hot Guy, and his mom was telling other moms that she was going to name him Superman, but then decided he'd like Hot Guy better as a grown-up. We gave my son the middle name of Danger, thinking it would be badass when he was a high school QB, or make him look cool at college parties. But now that he's a teenager, I think it's safe to say that if my son ever even attends a football game, it will be because he's playing the tuba there. Not that there is anything wrong with that, but probably wouldn't associate the middle name Danger for someone on marching band. I laugh in the face of danger. Simba. My mom went to school with a girl named Penis, but everyone called her Penny. What were her parents thinking? Edit typo. Hey honey, what's a name that would get you bullied? Quote. Penis. Why? Quote. Filling out paperwork, no reason. My parents wanted to name me Josephina. Thank gosh they didn't. My dad ended up suggesting a different name, and that's how I got named after my mom's pet caterpillars she had as a child. They didn't regret that one. That's my grandma's name, and for some time I genuinely considered using it. I was thinking if changing it to the English or French version. Josephine. I'm just here to see how many Khaleesi posts there are. The amount of friends that I have who named their kids after gut characters is just too high. My friend named his cat Drogo, if that counts. Naming a pet I can accept. The most annoying part of that for me was that asterisk that wasn't even her fucking name. Asterisk. Like you're devoted enough to the show to name your child after it, but you can't even learn the characters' actual damn name. It means queen, doesn't it? It was essentially the Dothraki version, yes. Not me, but my so teaches 2 sisters named Princess with their middle name as the differentiator. If they haven't regretted it, they will when both princesses grow up, I hope. Gulp. Why would anyone do that? Pretty common tradition in some black families, dating back to the time when racist assholes refused to use an honorific like Mr. for black people. They'd politely call a white guy Mr. Smith, but a black guy by his first name only. So some families started using regal and noble titles as first names for an inspoken, you can say Miss or you can say Princess. Your move, fucker. I personally blame Instagram, but IDK. I don't mind my son's name, but I regret that I didn't stand my ground and insist that his middle name be my great-grandpa's name. I really wanted to honor my OPA, who was a big part of my life, and my ex insisted it was too German, and insisted he have a good Irish name, and allowed my alternative. My ex is like a quarter Irish through his grandma that he never met. Meanwhile, my German dad literally didn't speak English till he was 7, and my mom is German, and I grew up in a household where German was spoken too, but go off I guess. You know, I can see that I'm getting downvoted for this, and IDKY? I can only assume it's because Germans equals Nazis, but my opa's house got fucking bombed because he refused to enlist in the German army, and I always thought that was pretty fucking rad. My OPA was in Tifa before it was cool, and I think Franz is a cool name, and I wish I could have passed it on. I'm Jewish, and tons of my Jewish friends call their grandparents Oma, OPA, and speak Yiddish at home. So yeah, German definitely does not equal Nazi. As far as I know, my parents don't regret my name, but it's an odd situation. I was their firstborn, and my dad wanted me to be named Jerry, after himself, but we have 7 other Jerrys in my family, so they named me Jerry. But they decided, from birth, that I would go by Caleb, my middle name. I don't mind, because I don't like the name Jerry, but it makes things confusing at work, cause I don't like to explain to everyone that I prefer to go by my middle name. so I usually just go by my first name at work. This is my son's story too. I regret doing that to him now that he's older. At the time it was to differentiate him from his father, but now his dad isn't on the scene. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.